America has a relatively short history compared to many other countries. Christopher Columbus only discovered America in 1492. However, this country has had a great influence on the world, especially in terms of making democracy the current mainstream of governance in the world. The American Revolution that established the country as a republic also pushed the French to change their governance, leading to the French Revolution and the gradual transformation of nations. The United States is known as the land of democracy and freedom. Although Americans have diverse backgrounds, everyone lives together based on the principles of equality and freedom of expression. Let's follow the American Revolutionary War from 1775 to 1783, which was the foundation of democracy in America and was an important event that changed the world. Originally, North America in the 18th century was divided into many colonies based on the allocations of European powers, such as Spain, which controlled areas in Florida and the Southwest. France controlled areas along the Mississippi River and the Gulf of Mexico, and England controlled most of the Atlantic coast, which would later become the 13 main colonies that demanded independence from the British Empire. However, the colonists they often had some self-governance but were protected by empires or superpowers, reflecting that the European powers did not directly control the colonists, except for the Spanish Empire, which was quite strict. During 1756 to 1763, Europe had a major conflict called the 7 Years' War, in which England and France fought over conflicting interests, leading to confrontations in Europe and other colonies around the world, including colonies in America. The 7 Years' War in the American battlefield was called the French and Indian War because both sides used Native Americans, called Indians, to fight each other. In the end, France lost the war, leading to the Treaty of Paris in 1763, which allowed England to seize French colonies and control almost all colonies in North America. However, even though England was the victor and had the only colony in North America, what the British Empire had to face was the enormous costs of the war, causing the British government to collect additional taxes from the colonies, starting with the passing of the Royal Edict of 1763, which restricted the colonists' expansion and settlement further west, preventing them from encroaching on the Indian settlements. This was to control the expansion of the colony, which would make it easier to collect taxes. The Sugar Act of 1764 also had an important purpose to prevent smuggling of molasses, and to collect additional taxes on molasses and luxury goods. These acts caused the colonists to start to feel dissatisfied, but they could not do much. Because the colonists did not have representatives in the British Parliament who could vote against the government's operations, the following year, the Quartering Act of 1765 was passed, which inevitably required the colonists to provide accommodation and help support the British soldiers. In the same year, the Stamp Duty Act of 1765 was passed, which required all documents in the colony to be stamped with a tax stamp, whether the document was a newspaper, magazine, certificate, or even playing cards. Other laws were passed that made the colonists pay more taxes. The colonists paid more taxes. These laws caused severe dissatisfaction among the colonists, leading to many protests in each area, including intimidation and destruction of the accommodation of British officials, because the colonists considered these laws to be a direct violation of their rights and exploitation. Before the gathering of representatives from the 9 colonies in New York City to submit a petition to repeal the said laws, with a consensus that each colony had the right to collect its own taxes, the tension that had developed led the British government to announce the repeal of the Stamp Duty Act in 1766 to ease the tension. However, England still issued the Act of Proclamation to declare that the British government had absolute power over the colonies. Then England ruled with the question of how to collect taxes without making people too angry. It came out as a pretense of canceling some taxes, but changing to collecting other taxes instead. This went on for many years, causing the colonists to feel resentful of being tricked by the government, patting them on the head and stroking them on the back over and over again. It was difficult to negotiate anything. At this point, the colonists began to loosely unite to declare their independence, with important activist groups such as the Sons of Independence who supported the boycott of imported goods from England in 1770. Later, the British Parliament both appeased and threatened by relaxing the cancellation of many taxes, but still collected a tax on imported tea leaves, an important item because people in British culture often drank tea every day. At the same time, 4,000 soldiers were stationed in Boston. However, there was an incident where a mob protested in front of the customs office, shouting a challenge to the guards to shoot themselves. "If you dare, shoot," while throwing things. Finally, one soldier's gun was thrown at him. He could not stand it anymore, and when he picked up his gun, he fired into the crowd. This bullet caused a riot, resulting in 5 deaths, which was called the Boston Massacre. The Boston Massacre became an important fuse that eventually caused the dissatisfaction of the colonists to explode.